Hey guys, it's October 31st, Halloween 2019. I'm on vacation this week, so I wanted to make some changes to the NBA sheet. And as you can see, if this is the first time you've seen one of our videos, this is our main tab over here, our game breakdown tab, our DVP, and then we've got a little instructional tab with screenshots. So for this video, I'm going to focus on the changes I made on the game tab. And if this is the first time you're seeing it, look at the red arrow. There's a drop-down menu of all the home teams, and as soon as you pick a new one, it just populates everything for you. So there's two major sections that I added. I added an update for the DFS players. That's the large majority of what the sheets are used for. However, last year I had a Google sheet that basically calculated algo plays, and it was very successful, so I wanted to incorporate that into this sheet now that sports betting is getting more popular and a lot more people are getting into it due to the legalization. So I'm adding stuff into the sheet to where it doesn't mess up any of the DFS stuff, but it's there. So if you're like me and you do sports betting and fantasy, you've got everything you need right here in one spot. If you need a full breakdown of the sheet, go back, look at one of our past videos. But right now, so let's start with the DFS side. The first thing I added in here was the ranking of the DVP. So when we first launched the sheet, we didn't have the DVP quick look because you could go over here to the DVP zone and see fantasy points allowed to each position, the total fantasy points, projected pace, Vegas lines, etc., etc. But over here, when I'm flipping through games, I didn't like going over here saying, okay, well, what do they allow to centers? Okay, what do they allow to point guards? I wanted to see everything in one spot. So we brought it in, and then I kept finding myself saying, okay, power forwards 55.6, how does that rank? Okay, click over here, look at power forwards 55.6. Okay, there's nothing higher, that's the top rated spot. So instead, I just brought the rankings in, and they're just kind of a dull blue, they sit in the background. However, if it's a top 3 spot, then it's going to highlight this kind of grayish with yellow text, so it jumps out at you so you can quickly see, okay, Sacramento, power forward, center's the best spot. So that way, if you're running late, you get home from work, it's 5:15, you want to stack a game that you really like, you can look over here and say, okay, how many fantasy points are they allowing? Okay, how's that compared to the league average, and where's the best spots to attack? So we brought in the ranking on the DVP. The other thing is we have game time and projected pace. Well, projected pace doesn't help if you don't know, is this the highest projected pace game on the slate? So over here in this little corner box, I just put the ranking, and there's nothing that indicates what this is a rank of, but if you have half a brain, you can say, okay, projected pace, okay, this is the 8th highest game on the slate. Not of the league, just projected pace of the games today. So this one would come in at number 8, and this will update. What else did we do for the DFS? Okay, we had positions here, which is DK. Now the problem is when you're looking here, let's say Bridges. Okay, now he's eligible at small forward and power forward, but for DVP we don't really know where he plays. So are we looking at the small forward or are we looking at the power forward numbers? So I brought over here this, and I just used it red. This is what Basketball Monster calls the ease position. This is the percentage they play at the majority of the time. So for example, Bridges, he might play small forward, power forward, but the majority of the time he plays at small forward. So for DVP purposes, we're going to look at small forward. The key with this is you might have someone who is, okay, center power forward. Well, a lot of games it's really going to change their DVP if they're playing at center or power forward. So since he plays the majority at power forward, okay, I'm going to come over here and look at power forward numbers. So I brought this in here. It was an extra column, but this is what I look at mainly. And then when I'm building lineups on DK, I can look here and say, okay, because lots of times, well, here's one, Mr. Bacon. So he's shooting guard, small forward eligible, so there's a lot of places you can put him in a lineup. So I'll focus on people like that if I find a value guy that's multi-position eligible. And again, shooting guard, small forward, your DVPs there are going to change drastically, and he plays the majority of the time at shooting guard, so shooting guard DVP is what we want to look at. So we brought in this ease position. I just called it main because a lot of people are going to message me and say, well, what's ease mean? So I just put the main position they play at. And then let's see what else for DFS. So we got the ranking, we got the DVP rank, and we got the main position. And that's the majority of the stuff I did for DFS. Now for sports betting is starting to get legalized all over the place. Most of the people that play fantasy, I'd say about 50 to 60% of them, they also have a bookie or they're online betting or doing some type of sports betting. Last year I had an NBA algo Google sheet that auto-updated every day. I really liked it. I was highly successful with it. And so I wanted to incorporate it into this sheet because I hate going to 2 or 3 different spots when I'm doing DFS and I'm sports betting and talking to people about it. So I'm pulling everything into the sheet, kind of like I did with our football sheet. So up here, we added a couple of things. So if any Vegas bets are over 85%, it's going to pop up here. This is just a light gray box with some blue lettering. And so you can see, okay, Sacramento, 88% of the spread bets hit. So this is a lot to look at. I understand that. So you can quickly glance here. So if something's over 85%, it's going to pop here. And it looks at the line first, and then the total, and then the side's going to be the last thing. Just because the money line's such a huge spread, it's obviously going to be heavyweight on the favorite every time. So like minus 7.5, 72%. You're going to have 70, 80, 90% on anything that's a big spread, let's just say. So the spread and the total are the main ones we're looking at. So that's just a quick look, and I'll update that in the future. And then down here, this is the fun section right about here. So this is our Vegas section. So this up here, these top 4 boxes, this is our Algo Vegas picks and our Algo Vegas total picks. So you can see here it says pass and pass. So there's no play there. However, do not use this yet. So it's October 31st. There's less than a dozen games in. So it's pulling these stats and calculating scores up here in our custom model. And then that's what our algo picks and totals are based off of. However, this is going to be skewed. If one team had a bad game and they gave up a bunch of points and a bunch of turnovers, their numbers are really going to be skewed. So do not use this yet. I would wait till we get some more data. You're fine to look at it, play with it, see if you agree with it. Sometimes it'll hit some games spot on, and other times it's just way off. This also does not account if there's an injury like Kawhi getting ruled out yesterday. This isn't going to update for that. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, one of the other things I did, one thing you can follow is this section down here. So I just called this Vegas Moves and Sharp Action. So this is going to show any line movements that are over, I think I did a point. So if it's 1 point or more, like a half a point here, this 223 to 223.5, it moved a half a point. It's not going to show up down here. Half a point, I don't care. If it's, I started at 1.5, I went ahead and moved it at 1, and you can look at it and say, hey, you like it, you don't like it. And then also down here in these two below it, you can see it's blacked out. It's not going to show anything. But if it detects any sharp action, it's going to pop a red box, and we'll look at a couple of these. The sharp plays went 2-1 yesterday. So let's look at a game here. So the first one I want to look at is Utah. So Utah, the line jumped. You can see the total went from 215 to 216. It moved up 1. And you can see right here, line move of 1 to the over. So this is a quick way to look without looking at the numbers and doing quick math in your head. And then over here you can see Utah. This is basically because Kawhi got ruled out. Opened at minus 1.5 and moved to minus 6. So it moved 4.5 points. So you can see line move of 4.5 points to Utah. Well, everybody knows why. If you know anything about basketball, you figured that one out pretty quick. And so you can see up here our algo pick, we had bet LAC. Well, we had the Clippers here winning 119 to 106. However, a lot of that is going to be, there's a big difference in turnovers here, and that's what skewed this number. And then also, when we're over here looking at home and road, these splits and differences, that skewed that. So with Kawhi being ruled out, that's the first thing I would throw it out the window this early in the season. But then you also notice this sharp money on Utah. So basically, yes, it was a big line movement, but a lot of the sharps hit this line, and Utah ended up winning 110 to 96. So they won by 14. They covered the 6-point spread. So sharp money guys took that one down. Another one I want to look at is, let's just scroll down here. So Orlando, you can see there was a sharp play here. So sharp money was hitting the over. It went from 207.5 to 210.5. And this is the one that lost. I don't have it in front of me, but it didn't get to 210. I think it was around 195 to 205, somewhere around there. So the sharps were 1-1. And then where was the other sharp one? So I can show you real quick. Okay, so the sharp money here, you can see sharp money was hitting the over. So this opened at 215, it went to 217, and our algorithm even had it at 218. So if we agree with it and the line's moving towards it, I would feel better about betting that game if that's one that you want to go with. So sharp money was hitting this over at 217, and that game ended at 228. So that one won. So out of the sharp plays yesterday on the 30th, there were 2 wins and 1 loss. So I'll continue to track those and keep an eye on them. But for me, if I get home at 5 o'clock and I want to flip through, if I'm not doing any DFS, I want to do bets, I'll just click down through all of the games and I can just look over here and get a quick glimpse of line movement, sharp money, where stuff's going, and then I can make a determination of what I want to do from there. Another one, let's see, Philly, where are they at? Alright, so Philly, you can see over here, no big changes on the side, and then the total, there was a line movement of 2.5 towards the under. So it opened at 225, it closed at, or currently was at 222.5, so it moved 2.5 points towards the under. 69% of the people were also on the under, and that game ended up, I think it went under, yeah, it ended at 212. Which basically everybody knows about the fight with Cat and Embiid and the ejection, so I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. I didn't pay attention to it. And then Houston, when I was flipping through these games, this was another one. Let me flip down through some of these real quick. Alright, Houston, Washington. For some reason, I can't figure out why that blacks out only on this one particular game. But anyways, I'll figure it out. So here, when you glance down here, no big changes on the side. And then the line movement of 3.5 towards the over. That's a pretty significant line movement. So it opened at 230.5 and it went up to 234, and 75% of the people were on it. And then here, it wasn't a big deal, but 85% of the money line bets were on Houston, which, okay, shocker. But this was where the big line movement was the over in this game between Houston and Washington. And this game, if you remember, they scored, it was like 159 to 158 for the final. I wrote it down here. I'm trying to look for it real quick. Okay, yeah, so the 3.5 point move towards the over, it ended at a total of 317 points in the game. It was the most insane thing I've seen. But anyways, that's what makes basketball exciting. So if you're betting, one thing you can do is just click down here and just flip through all the games, especially 30 minutes before game time. You can look and see movements, lock, and again our algo picks, they're rated 1 to 4, and it's basically when we get into like our custom model, the difference between the spread. So if we've got them winning by 4 points more than the spread, then it's going to be like a number 4. And I think the breakdown is a difference of 10 points, 7, 3.5. I think that's what it is for pass, and then rated 1 to 4. So a game that's rated number 1 would be, our algorithm has it 10 points different than the actual Vegas spread itself. So it's pretty comfortable. I wish I had the record on what it did last year, but I got so busy I couldn't keep track of it. So I just put it out there for people to follow, play with, see if you like it, see if you don't like it. But also, once we get into the season, I will remove this up here. It just says custom models live. Do not use it, as there are stats that are very limited this early in the season. So I'm still going to let it run because I don't want to black it out and have to go back and find it and uncover it. So it's going to pop up and it's going to be in here, but just be careful. Like for example, you can see the algo pick here was over 214, rated number 1. That's because the total's at 214 and we had it scoring 229. And I think that one did go over. But anyways, you can see the line movement, you can see the percentage of Vegas money on it, etc., etc. So anyways, I got this updated for today, which when I do the sheet for the small 3-game slate, I will post it. And then the next thing I'm going to work on is the tiers tab, bringing that back in. I got some changes I need to make on that, but I should be able to get that done this week, and we'll go from there. Thanks, guys.